Hello, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, Equestria War, with this time, the Kingdom of Abyssinia. And as you can probably hear in my voice, my voice is a little weaker than it sometimes is. I'm feeling good amount better now, but I had a bad sore throat and had a really bad cough for the past probably about half a week, a little more. So I haven't recorded in a bit. That and also before that, also honestly it still hasn't updated, but Equestria War hasn't updated, and I just don't like recording when there's a chance of saves breaking, but I just want to record. It's been a while, and my voice is feeling a bit better, and yeah, so why not? Let's record some stuff, right? But if I cough a bit or whatever, that's why. I'm still not fully recovered, but I'm definitely getting there. Do. Northwestern Zebrica. Northwestern Zebrica has a long coastline stretching from the southernmost tip of Arabian Peninsula to the northernmost point of Abyssinia. Alright, it's been a while. I forgot to start my timer, so I know about how long the video is. The northern half of the coast is arid, as the seas bring little rain and hot, dry winds blow frequently from the Zebhara Desert, while the south is more temperate and lush. However, the eastern half of the Arabian Peninsula is covered in desert due to rain shadows and from the mountains, while the rains of the Arabian Sea go east towards Razia. As the majority of the northwest is dry, the population of cats, horses, ponies, and donkeys is concentrated on the coast and along fertile rivers which flow from the mountains. The latter is especially true in Mare Egypt, as the Grand Nile River flows through it, providing a vital source of water in the dry sands. Saudi Arabia is the largest nation in the region, or it was, until civil war tore it asunder into 5 factions. The horses of Saudi Arabia were once the hegemons of the entire West, but centuries of decadence have seen their empire crumble. Northeast of Saudi Arabia lie Equestria and Zurich, nations of warlike donkeys, while cats inhabit the mountainous kingdom of Abyssinia. Yeah, they do. Woo! Mare Egypt is populated by ponies, cousins of equestrians, as is the area of Andalusia, which is partitioned between Abyssinia and Mare Egypt. South of the donkeys is the Emirate of Yemen, which broke off from Saudi Arabia many years ago. Half of the region avoided the Storm King's fury, while the other half was plundered by him. While Saudi Arabia was still united, its modern powerful army was able to match the Storm King's host, and they protected the donkeys, who were still in their sphere of influence. Abyssinia, Mare Egypt, and Yemen were not so lucky. The Skorks even wreaked havoc in their lands, taking everything that was worth taking and savaging the rest. Abyssinia in particular suffered greatly, as they proudly attempted to resist the Storm King, but to no avail. The Storm King has since perished, and now what would have been the perfect time for Saudi Arabia to reassert its former dominance. The last internal unrest reached a boiling point, and the once powerful and wealthy nation is now tearing itself apart. The donkeys are now left without a protector, but are now also free to pursue their own foreign policy. Yemen, Abyssinia, and Mare Egypt must focus on rebuilding what was destroyed. But all 3 of them have poor relations with their neighbors. The Griffonian kingdom of Wingbardi has a small holding in Abyssinia, and may seek to expand its influence in the region. And after Saudi Arabia reunites, the mighty giant will awaken and look outwards. If the other countries in the region remain weak and divided, they will be able to do nothing to stop them. Yeah, seems about right to me. But as you can see, we are doing something a little different. Little bit different. That's right, it's time for April Fool's content. But first, let's read the last bit of non-April Fool's content. When the Storm King invaded us with his army, we were determined to fight until the bitter end. And so we did. For months we resisted boldly, slowing his advance to a crawl, and using scorched earth tactics to deny any gains from him. When our army was finally defeated, the Storm King proceeded to burn down and loot every town that was still intact. We tried hiding our treasures from him, but he was no fool and managed to find them, taking everything valuable for himself. Afterwards, his army left us alone to lick our wounds. We've lost everything, except for our honor. And then, this is Efflusion. Whatever this is, it is Efflusion. Everything is strange, different, and odd. Perhaps this is a chance to start anew, afresh, with ripe clay for molding. A wrong turn? What is this? We got some weirdness going on here. Some very non-canon stuff. Another defeat at the hand of rival galactic powers. Another collapsing Imperium. Another storming of Kattail and the Pyramid. Yeah, I know nothing about what's going on with this. But it's April Fool's. Time to check out a new April Fool's thing. I'm very curious. Another failed attempt. It mattered little in the end, Kattail thought, as he barreled through eternity and to the next iteration of the infinite cycle, where he knew that another Efflusion and its billions of zealous Katzens would be waiting for him to arrive and retry everything once more. Kattail found himself in a cave, presumably somewhere near Kattail. As he got up to exit the cave and restart his conquest, he felt heavier than usual. How strange. Had he put on weight since last cycle? No matter, he thought, as he walked out of the cave, expecting to be greeted by the familiar sight of the suburban outskirts of Kattail Megalopolis. However, Kattail was nowhere to be seen, and neither were the lukewarm and verdant plains of the northern Katzennia hinterlands. Instead, in front of him stretched a large, arid plain beneath a scorching, nearly equatorial sun. There was no megalopolis in sight, only scattered and evidently rather poor villages surrounding a moderately large city in the distance. Perhaps he had arrived too early, back when fusion was warmer. Or maybe this fusion was simply different from the rest. Or perhaps, he thought, as he stared at the rustic village, strangely bereft of all usual aspects of Katzen militarization, this wasn't fusion at all. Whatever fusion is. Gee. By their technology. Whilst the felines here do not have the technological might of fusion, it is at least sufficient for the Kaiser to guide them and to begin a fresh conquest of unspoiled land. Okay. Gotta figure out what I'm gonna spend political power on. Alright, and what to start getting army experience, yeah. Okay. Army offense, sure. Let's get some research speed. Oops. And their powers. Something odd here sets this world far apart from fusion. By all known laws of physics, what passes for normal here should not be possible. Instead of raging at the inconsistency of it all, though, Kattail can see the use of all this new stuff. Magic, they call it. Yes, this magic can be used for the benefit. The benefit of me. Investigating the magic. At first, Kattail, of course, thought of simply departing from this cycle. What was he to do without his trusty Katzens? And yet this curious anomaly intrigued him. Thus, he set out to learn more about this strange world. Yeah. Wandering about the arid countryside, he quickly noticed that while they weren't Katzens, the inhabitants of the area he landed in were most definitely feline, which made it surprisingly easy for him to get chummy with them, and subsequently extract valuable information under the pretense of him being a wealthy Abyssinian expat returning to his homeland. In a strange parallel with what's usually happening on Fusion during his arrival, he learned that these felines too were embroiled in political instability and stagnation, with many of them yearning for a proper regime change. The most intriguing part to him had to be the wide variety of magical abilities reportedly displayed by the various species populating this world, which, much like Fusion, was strangely rich and diverse. He eventually concluded, while it would be brazen departure from his habits, this sword had certain potential when it came to furthering his ambitions. In the end, maybe all that his grand plans of universal domination needed to finally succeed were merely a little bit of magic, and so his mind was set. Are worth taking over. Abyssinia may just be the springboard the Kaiser needs for the path ahead. A species that looks just like him. Political turmoil not too dissimilar from Fusion's, and a population who clearly has no experience with someone who can play them like a fiddle, for Kattail has done so millions of times. We're the hero. We gotta make the trains run on time, really? That's a reference up there. Oh boy. And not a My Little Pony reference this time. That's a history reference right there. Oh boy. The new Imperium. The actual takeover of Abyssinia was, for lack of better terms, relatively mundane. The skillful usage of his immense technological and political knowledge from past cycles made it easier for Kattail to rapidly gather a large following across the nation, which promptly marched onto the capital of Pantheria. Of course, some false promises and manipulations had to be undertaken, but the repercussions of that would be dealt with in due times. Naturally, Kattail still expected Tally Cecil Claw-wounded to resist and cause a civil war, but much to his surprise as he stepped into their palace and confronted him in person, the monarch quite simply stared at Kattail before handing him the crown, seemingly almost happy to do so. And well, that was that. After generously allowing them to retire in a rural cottage, Kattail now found himself at the head of Abyssinia and its 6 million inhabitants. Well, I have a feeling when they eventually get a focus tree, if this train's canon, like that feeling of them, they are not gonna. There's gonna be a very interesting focus tree for how they deal with the fact that they don't even want to be a monarch. But it was evident that this was only the beginning, as the nation he had managed to take over was not in the best shape, to say the least. Devastated by the Corn King, plagued by slave unrest, and threatened by Wingbardy's ambitions, Kattail knew that he'd need to put in quite a bit of elbow grease if he was to make any of it work. An ocean of elbow grease, really. Kaiser Kattail. Kaiser Kattail is the supreme, mostly undisputed ruler of the infamous Katterig Imperium. Charismatic and mysterious, yet markedly goofy at times, Kattail is known for his utterly insane megalomaniac tendencies that drive him to seek the ultimately unattainable goal of conquering all that exists. Regardless of the fundamental impossibility of this lofty scheme, he is nonetheless unwilling to give up and attempting to achieve universal conquest, something which he has done countless times before thanks to his ability to travel to future universal cycles, essentially granting him near unlimited attempts. Thus, most of his supposed genius and competence is simply the result of brute force trial and error. Despite his imperialistic tendencies, Kattail vehemently believes that all species must be treated equally and can thus be described as a sort of semi-benevolent despot who does genuinely wish to improve the lives of his subjects. However, while he attempts to enforce equality between all citizens of his empire, regardless of their origin, dissent is nevertheless cracked down upon, and local cultures tend to be erased or amalgamated into Katzennia culture whenever possible. It is thus difficult to find whether Kattail is villainous or benevolent, as well as empire tries to provide good living conditions to every single of its citizens. Things can quickly take a turn for the worse should his empire find itself on the back foot militarily, with forced conscription and harsh crackdowns becoming the norm in a desperate attempt to keep the empire alive. For more information pertaining to Kaiser Kattail, check out his wiki page on the Gigastructural Engineering Lore database website. Okay then. Well, let's see what race he's ruling. Bipedal by nature, these feline creatures have developed differently from their more feral kin, and have grown sapient as a result. Abyssinian cats are renowned for their wit and penchant for trading. However, the historical institution of enslavement of non-cat creatures has sullied their reputation abroad, and they are seen as lazy, two-faced schemers. Like other cats, they are obligate carnivores and tend to avoid sweet food and milk. Nice. Now we're gonna build kilo forges. With a sprinkling of Katzen know-how and a hefty dose of Katzen industrial might, things will start to get interesting. Establishing of kilo forges will help pump out the machinery of war for the Kaiser's plans. Yes, of course. There we go. Nice. The trains run on time. In a long-forgotten cycle, a bunch of pizza eaters reared this Biccolini sound-alike figure, who allegedly made the trains run on time. Unrelated to that, the Kaiser Abitil bombarded them into submission. Still, everything working smoothly will be a miraculous turnaround for these battered cats. What a reference. I'm not even... Does this story have anything about that? Trains? Yeah, Kingdom of Wingbardy does it too. Okay, the trains run on time. I've actually, even though this is obviously their most popular path, I have never played Wingbardy, Piccolini. Actually, I think I have once, but it's been a long time. I always go Monarch. That's just the path I think is the most interesting. So, yeah. Sure, why not? Towards the rice sieger, the pitiable hunks of metal that pass for armor here will be a thing of the past. It may be too early to think of spacefaring behemoths powered by entire solar systems, but the Kaisers know-how can produce the next best thing with limited resources. A tank that screams, Overlord. Oh, yeah. And we're trading Skyfall now, because why not? Oh, I can change the wardrobe? Choosing Kattail's appearance. If I want to conquer the world, I need to inspire confidence within my subjects. How shall the world witness me? Let's returning to roots. I thought it was. I didn't want to say anything, but is that the Plants vs. Zombies? Like the two little plant things, the tail that shoots. Is this a Plants vs. Zombies thing? I'm not sure. But for some reason, it's like, is that where this is inspired from? Like, in a strange, obligated way? Or am I thinking of this completely off? Am I just... Because I could just be completely wrong, genuinely. I think that's definitely a possibility. But also, I'm not completely sure if I am wrong. I might be completely right as well. So, I don't know. Establish foundries. Whilst they may not be kiloforges, a serious effort should be made to rip out surplus buildings and turn it into manufacturing forges. This will help alleviate some of the production demand. Yeah, let's go. Let's have a humongous amount of military factories. I like to see it. We also have a lot of army experience. I genuinely might be completely wrong with that being a Plants, but it I'm trying to remember. That looks... I mean, strangely enough, I play a lot of Plants vs. Zombies Hero, even till to today. I still play quite a lot of it. So that's where my knowledge is actually coming from for this. But is that the Plants vs. Zombies Hero? Or, you know, basic Plants vs. Zombies, whatever. But is that the Kattail? Kattail, I think that's what it's called. Is that a Kattail? Sure. Okay. But I think this is a good time to go ahead and end this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.